What if I told you that the most mind-blowing, earth-shattering physical experience of a man's life isn't found at the finish line, but hidden secretly right in the middle of the race? I want you to really think about that for a second. We are completely conditioned to believe that male pleasure is a straight, predictable line. You start the engine, you press the gas pedal, and you drive as fast as you can until you hit a brick wall.
Boom.
Game over. He rolls over, the magic vanishes, the deep emotional connection is instantly severed, and you are left lying there wondering why the build-up was so much more intoxicating than the finale. For over 15 years, I have dedicated my life to understanding the intricacies of human connection, sitting in rooms with tens of thousands of women, decoding the deepest, most unsaid desires of the male mind. And I can tell you right now with absolute certainty, the biggest tragedy in the bedroom is the rush to the end. Men do not want to just cross the finish line. They want to be trapped in the ecstasy of the journey. They want you to take the steering wheel out of their hands, look them dead in the eye, and say, I am in charge now. And we are not going anywhere until I say so. Today, we are going to talk about a level of physical intimacy that most people do not even know exists. We are going to talk about how you can touch one very specific spot, a hidden little button, and give him all the intense toe-curling, breath-stealing sensations of a climax without him actually finishing, without the grand finale, keeping him locked in a state of absolute euphoria where he is completely and utterly obsessed with you. Now, to truly understand this, we have to seamlessly blend the emotional with the mechanical. You see, when a man is in the bedroom, he is very often playing a predefined role. He is the provider, the performer, the one who is supposed to orchestrate the entire symphony. He is stuck in his head. He is constantly worrying about your pleasure, his stamina, the rhythm, the angle, the pacing. It is honestly exhausting. True physical intimacy, kind that binds a man to you on a fundamental soul level, happens when you give him the permission to completely surrender. You take the heavy pressure of performance entirely off his shoulders. When you master the technique I am about to share with you, you are not just giving him a physical thrill, you are giving him a rare emotional sanctuary. You are showing him that you understand his body better than he does. And trust me, there is absolutely nothing more intoxicating to a man than a woman who moves with unshakable confidence. A woman who touches him not with hesitation, but with absolute certainty. So let us get into the exact mechanics of this, because the how-to is just as crucial as the why. I want you to picture his anatomy not as a singular focal point, but as an entire intricate landscape. Most women focus 99% of their attention on the main attraction, the joystick, the star of the show. And while the little guy definitely deserves your undivided attention, hyper-focusing on it is exactly what accelerates him toward that inevitable finish line. We want to bypass the fast track. We want to take the scenic road. The spot we are looking for is what I like to call the runway. It is that smooth, highly sensitive patch of skin located right behind the base of his manhood, stretching down toward the back door. In clinical terms, it is the perineum, but for our purposes tonight, it is the magic button. It is the absolute control center for his entire internal pleasure system. Behind that tiny, unassuming stretch of skin lies the VIP lounge, the epicenter of male ecstasy. When you stimulate this runway correctly, you are sending intense shockwaves directly into his central nervous system, bypassing the normal triggers that cause him to finish, and instead flooding his body with the raw, unfiltered sensation of a climax that just keeps rolling. But you do not just dive straight for the runway. That is like trying to play a delicate grand piano by smashing the keys with a sledgehammer. You have to carefully tune the instrument first. You start by building an atmosphere of agonizing, delicious anticipation, the stark contrast of touch is your greatest weapon here. Before your hands ever go south, your overall energy needs to shift. Slower movements, deeper breaths. When you are kissing him, do not just kiss his lips. Take your sweet time, drag your lips down his jawline, trace the sensitive side of his neck, let your warm breath hit his ear. You want his heart rate to elevate dramatically before your hands even make a single move. This is the crucial emotional ramp up. You are signaling directly to his primal brain that something very different is happening tonight. This is not the usual routine. When your hands do finally begin to wander, keep your touch incredibly light. I am talking feather light, almost frustratingly teasing. Graze your fingertips over his chest, down his stomach, tracing the very edges of his hips. You want him practically begging for a firmer touch. You want his muscles tensing, his hips lifting slightly off the mattress, chasing your hands because you are purposely, playfully holding back. When you finally bring your attention down to his gear, you are not going to grip it like a steering wheel in a car crash. You are going to use the soft pads of your fingers, creating long, agonizingly slow strokes. This is where you have to pay clinical, hawk-like attention to his physical movements. His body is a literal dashboard, and every twitch, every sharp gasp, every sudden shift in his breathing is a dial telling you exactly where he is at on the map. Is his breathing getting shallow and ragged? Is he aggressively gripping the bed sheets? Are his thighs tensing up like coiled springs? These are your primary indicators. You want to bring him all the way up the mountain, but you do not want him to jump off the cliff. You are actively edging him. You are playing a dangerous, beautiful game with his threshold. You bring him up to a solid 7 or 8 out of 10, and then you completely, abruptly stop the stimulation on the main attraction. You leave him hanging in the absolute best way possible. In that exact fragile moment when his body is screaming for release, when he is hovering right on the terrifying edge of no return, that is precisely when you make your calculated move to the runway. This transition has to be seamless, deeply confident, and completely deliberate. You are going to use the firm, flat pads of your index and middle fingers. You slide them right down beneath the heavy base of his manhood, finding that soft, taut stretch of the runway. Now, the pressure here is absolutely everything. If you are too light, it just tickles and it completely shatters the immersion. If you are too hard, it is genuinely uncomfortable. You want a firm massaging pressure, pressing upward and slightly inward. Think of it like you are trying to press an elevator button that is just slightly stuck in the wall. You apply a steady, rhythmic pressure. When he is highly aroused, this spot becomes incredibly sensitive, almost swollen with anticipation. As you boldly press your fingers into the runway, you are physically blocking the normal biological pathways of his release while simultaneously massaging the internal epicenter of his pleasure. The sensation is mind-boggling for a man. It feels exactly like the intense, explosive buildup of an orgasm, the exact physical thrill of the climax, but because you are controlling the intense pressure on that specific spot, the actual release is physically trapped. It rolls forcefully through his body like a tidal wave instead of a sudden fleeting explosion. He gets to experience the absolute peak of the mountain without ever falling down the other side. I want you to fundamentally understand the immense power you hold in this moment. While your fingers are firmly pressing and massaging the runway in a slow, hypnotic circular motion, you need to maintain that deep, piercing emotional connection. Do not just look down at your hands like you are fixing a sink. Bring your face intimately close to his. Look him right in his eyes. Let him see the quiet, dangerous confidence in your gaze. Whisper something incredibly grounding to him. Say, "Look at me. Just breathe. I have got you." This is where the absolute magic happens. In a harsh world where he is constantly expected to be in control, to make the tough decisions, to fiercely steer the ship, you are completely overriding his operating system. You are telling his brain, "I am taking the reins." You do not have to work anymore. Think about the way a man moves through his day. He is constantly solving problems. He is a mechanism of action. He goes to work, he fixes things, he handles stress. When he comes home and gets into bed with you, his default setting is to keep doing exactly that. He wants to fix the situation. He wants to handle the mechanics of intimacy. But if you let him do that, you are just giving him another job. You are giving him a third shift. The moment you introduce this specific technique, the moment you focus on the runway and manipulate his pleasure without letting him finish, you are firing him from that job. You are telling him your shift is over. You are off the clock. The profound relief a man feels when he realizes he does not have to perform, but just gets to exist and feel is indescribable. And the craziest part is, by denying him the finish line, you are actually giving him 1,000 times more pleasure than a standard climax could ever provide, because a standard climax lasts, 5 seconds? 10 seconds if he is lucky. Then the dopamine crashes, the prolactin spikes, and he is ready to go to sleep. But when you apply firm circular pressure to that runway, when you trap the sensation right at the absolute peak, you are stretching those 10 seconds into minutes. You are suspending him in the peak dopamine state. His brain is firing on all cylinders, convinced the big moment is happening. But because you are physically holding back the release, the wave just washes over him again and again. You will feel his heartbeat pounding rapidly against his chest. You will feel a subtle electric vibration in his muscles. Do not panic when this happens. A lot of women feel that intense physical reaction and they immediately back off because they think they are doing something wrong, or that he is in pain. He is not in pain. He is in absolute heaven. He is experiencing a neurological overload of pure ecstasy. You have to be the grounded anchor in this storm. When his body is trembling, you hold your ground. Your fingers do not waver. Your pressure remains perfectly steady. You are the rock. You keep your breathing slow and controlled, which subconsciously forces his breathing to regulate and match yours. This creates a mesmerizing hypnotic feedback loop between the two of you. His pleasure is skyrocketing into the stratosphere, but your calm, steady demeanor is keeping him safely tethered to reality. This striking contrast between his physical chaos and your emotional control is the ultimate aphrodisiac. It creates a dynamic where he begins to associate you not just with physical intimacy, but with a transcendent experience. He will look at you differently after this. He will crave your touch in a way that goes far beyond basic physical desire, because you have unlocked a door in his physiology that he did not even possess the key to. Now, I want you to truly visualize what is happening in the room while you are executing this, because we are just scratching the surface of this incredibly powerful dynamic. We have established that your fingers are firmly pressed against the runway, massaging that hidden button with steady, calculated pressure, but you have an entire rest of your body to utilize, and you have to act as the ultimate conductor of this physical symphony. This is where the concept of the dual hand technique comes into play, blending the absolute mechanical precision of your touch with an overwhelming emotional envelopment. While one hand is operating the control center at the base, your other hand needs to become the governor of his actual hardware. You see, the runway alone will send him into the stratosphere, but to keep him hovering exactly at that 9 out of 10 on the pleasure scale, you have to skillfully manipulate the main attraction without ever letting it cross the finish line. This requires an agonizingly brilliant level of restraint on your part. You wrap your free hand lightly around his gear, but you completely change the tempo and the friction. Remember, his default expectation is fast, hard, and rhythmic because that is how he is biologically wired to reach the grand finale. You are going to completely shatter that expectation. Instead of up and down motions, you are going to use a twisting, torquing motion. Use the soft palms of your hands and twist your grip in opposite directions, almost like you are slowly wringing out a sponge, but with an incredibly gentle, luxurious touch. You slide up just to the ridge, the most hypersensitive part of his anatomy, and you hover there. You do not go over the edge. You just lightly trace the rim with your thumb while your bottom hand continues that deep, firm circular pressure on the runway. The physical confusion happening in his central nervous system right now is absolute dynamite. His body is receiving the intense, deep pressure that signals a climax is happening, but the light, teasing surface touch is denying him the actual physical release. He is caught in a beautiful, agonizing loop of infinite pleasure. And this is exactly where you completely own the emotional landscape of the bedroom. A man in this state is completely stripped of his ego. The armor he wears all day long, the stoic provider, the tough guy, it totally melts away. He is raw, he is vulnerable, and he is entirely at your mercy. You need to physically lean into that vulnerability. Do not sit back and watch from a distance. You need to use your body weight to ground him. If you are straddling him or laying beside him, press your chest firmly against his. Let the physical weight of your body serve as a heavy, comforting blanket. When his body starts to involuntarily buck or his hips try to thrust upward to chase the finish line, you use your weight to gently but firmly pin him down. This physical dominance is not about being aggressive. It is about being an unshakable anchor. It is you physically communicating, I am in charge. You are not allowed to rush. We are staying right here in this beautiful tension. Bring your mouth right next to his ear. The auditory component of intimacy is so vastly underestimated. But in this heightened state, his hearing is hypersensitive. Do not ask him questions. This is a critical mistake many women make. They ask, does this feel good, or do you want me to keep going? Asking him a question forces his logical brain to turn back on. It forces him to process language, make a decision, and articulate a response. You are pulling him out of the sensory experience and putting him back into problem-solving mode. Instead of asking, you command. You make statements. You whisper softly but firmly, do not move. Just feel this, I am perfectly in control. You sound so incredibly confident that he has absolutely no choice but to completely surrender to the experience. The tone of your voice should be like dark chocolate, rich, slow, and completely intoxicating. You are hypnotizing him as you maintain that dual stimulation, the firm press on the runway, and the agonizingly slow twist on the main attraction. You have to watch his physical dashboard like a hawk. There is a very distinct moment when a man transitions from intense arousal to the absolute point of no return. You will feel his breath hitch. You will feel a sudden rigid tensing of his thigh muscles. You will physically feel the muscles underneath the runway start to rhythmically contract, trying to force the grand finale. When you feel those spasms start, that is your critical warning light. That is when you must immediately execute the pullback method. You do not let go of the runway. In fact, you press just a fraction harder into that hidden button to trap the sensation, but you completely remove your other hand from his gear. You stop the surface friction entirely. The engine is running way too hot, and you have to pull your foot completely off the gas pedal. In that moment of pause, his entire body will likely arch off the bed in pure, unadulterated frustration, but is the most exquisite frustration imaginable. He wants the release so badly his teeth are grinding, but you are forcing him to marinate in the buildup. To keep him in the moment while you are withholding the main friction, you shift your sensory attack. You trail your fingernails very lightly all the way up his stomach to his chest. You blow a cool stream of air right onto the sweat that is gathering on his neck. You completely change the sensory input to momentarily distract his nervous system from the absolute critical mass it was just about to reach. This creates what I call sensory stacking. You are mixing the deep, throbbing ache of his arousal with the light, almost startling contrast of a cool breath or a sharp fingernail scratch. His brain cannot possibly process all of these conflicting signals at once, so it just completely shuts down and surrenders to the euphoria. He stops trying to control the outcome and completely gives himself over to you. Think about how rare this is for a man. Think about the profound level of trust he is giving you in this exact moment. By taking control of his physical pleasure so entirely, you are silently establishing an incredibly deep emotional bond. You are proving to him that you are not just a passive participant in the bedroom, but a wildly capable partner who is willing to explore the absolute depths of his desires. You are showing him that you are confident enough to handle his rawest, most primal energy without getting overwhelmed. When you hold him in this suspended state of climax without the release, his brain is flooded with a continuous, uninterrupted stream of dopamine and oxytocin. He is practically swimming in the bonding chemicals that are usually instantly cut off the second a man finishes. Because you are prolonging the peak, you are literally hardwiring his brain to associate this intense, prolonged euphoria exclusively with you. You are creating a physical addiction to your touch. When you finally feel his heart rate settle just a tiny bit, when the critical danger of an accidental finish line crosses, you slowly, deliberately reintroduce the stimulation on his hardware. But you start even slower than before. You are resetting the baseline, but the baseline is now 10 times higher than it was when you first started. This is the art of edging combined with the mechanical brilliance of the runway technique. You can ride this wave for 20, 30, 40 minutes, bringing him up to the absolute precipice, trapping the sensation with that deep pressure on his hidden button and pulling back just in time to keep him locked in paradise. His eyes will roll back. His hands will grasp the sheets until his knuckles turn white, and he will look at you like you are completely out of this world. And the beautiful thing is, you are not performing. You are not putting on a show. You are deeply, intimately connected with his body, reading his signals, and guiding him through an experience he never could have orchestrated on his own. This level of physical empathy is the ultimate relationship glue. It tells a man, I see you, I feel you, and I know exactly what to do with you. Now I want you to think about how you actually conclude an experience like this, because how you land the plane is just as important as how you flew it. That most bedroom encounters end with a very abrupt, distinct biological cutoff. The grand finale happens, the energy in the room instantly shifts, the hormones plummet, and the emotional connection usually takes a massive backseat to sheer physical exhaustion. But because you have been skillfully navigating this entire session without letting him cross that final finish line, because you have been milking the intense euphoric peak through that deep pressure on the runway, you get to completely rewrite the ending of the story. You get to create a completely new kind of afterglow, one that does not involve him rolling over and passing out, but instead leaves him magnetically tethered to you, floating in a state of deep, mesmerized devotion. When you decide that you have held him in this beautiful, agonizing tension long enough, you do not just suddenly remove your hands and declare the session over. That would be completely jarring to his wildly overstimulated nervous system. Instead, you gracefully de-escalate the physical intensity while ramping up the emotional intimacy to a 10. You start by gradually softening the intense pressure you've been applying to the runway. Do not just let go. Slowly transform that firm, unyielding button press into a soft, luxurious, sweeping massage. Use the flat of your palm to slowly glide from the runway up the base of his hardware and over his lower stomach. You are physically sweeping all of that intense, localized, trapped energy upward and diffusing it throughout his entire body. At the same time, your other hand should be moving away from the main attraction entirely. Bring that hand up to his chest, trace his collarbones, run your fingers deeply through his hair, and gently massage his scalp. The scalp is packed with nerve endings, and when a man is in this state of suspended euphoria, the simple act of having his hair stroked feels absolutely divine. It is the ultimate gesture of soothing aftercare. You are physically communicating to his body that the intense climb is over. The danger of falling off the cliff has passed, and he is entirely safe to just melt into the mattress. Now physically lay your body down perfectly flush against his. I want your chest pressed directly against his chest so you can physically feel the heavy, thudding rhythm of his heartbeat against your ribs. Wrap your legs around his to ground him. Bury your face in his neck and let out a long, slow, audible exhale. When you forcefully slow down your breathing and make it deeply audible, his autonomic nervous system will subconsciously mimic yours. You will literally feel his breathing start to slow down and match your exact rhythm. This is profound physiological sensing. You are no longer just two people in a bed. Your bodies are operating on the exact same frequency. He is going to be laying there in a state of what I call euphoric exhaustion. He did not get the standard biological release, but his brain just spent the last 30 minutes completely drenched in the exact same neurochemicals that a climax produces. His body feels incredibly heavy, his mind is totally blank, and his ego is completely dismantled. This is the moment where you have total access to a man's heart. He is stripped of all his defenses. He is looking at you, feeling this overwhelming wave of intense pleasure and deep physical relief. And he is associating every single drop of that feeling entirely with you. I have sat in rooms with thousands of men asking them what they truly crave behind closed doors, and it always comes down to this exact feeling. They want to be handled. They want a woman who is not afraid of their desire, a woman who steps into the bedroom with an unshakable confidence and completely takes the reins. When you execute this technique, when you master the exact mechanical pressure of the runway while maintaining that fierce, unyielding emotional eye contact, you become absolutely undeniable to him. You elevate yourself from a partner to a necessity. You see physical intimacy as very rarely just about the physical movements. It is a deeply complex language. When a woman tentatively touches a man, when she hesitates or rushes to the finish line just to get it over with, she is silently speaking a language of insecurity or obligation. But when you touch a man like this, when you boldly explore his anatomy, trap his pleasure, command his breathing, and completely govern his physical state without a single ounce of hesitation, you are speaking the language of absolute dominance and supreme empathy. You are showing him that you are entirely comfortable in your own skin, and by extension, you make him feel completely safe in his. Think about how this radical shift in bedroom dynamics spills over into the rest of your relationship. A man who trusts you this deeply when he is completely physically vulnerable is a man who is going to trust you with his deepest emotional secrets, his biggest fears, and his grandest ambitions. You have physically hotwired his brain to view you as his ultimate sanctuary. He will find himself sitting in the middle of a stressful workday, completely overwhelmed by his responsibilities, and his mind will involuntarily flash right back to that exact moment. He will remember the firm pressure of your fingers, the dark, confident look in your eyes, the soft whisper of your voice telling him not to move. His body will literally crave your presence because you gave him an experience that he cannot get anywhere else, an experience he could not even give himself. You have completely rewritten his entire biological script. So the next time you find yourselves behind closed doors, I challenge you to completely throw away the standard playbook. Stop racing toward the inevitable finish line. The finish line is boring. The finish line is where the magic aggressively, abruptly ends. Slow the entire world down, change the lighting, change the temperature, change the tempo. Take his hands, pin them softly to his sides, look him dead in the eye, and let him know that tonight he is completely off the clock. Find that hidden runway. Master that dual hand technique. Trap the sensation right at the absolute peak of the mountain and just let him hang there in the beautiful, agonizing ecstasy of your control. Be the anchor in his physical storm. Because when you finally show a man that the journey is infinitely more intoxicating than the destination, you do not just give him an unforgettable night. You completely capture his mind, his body, and his absolute devotion forever.